Where is the microphone located? Okay, huh. Ace's Viva book. Huh. So that's what those are. Okay, that's cool. Microphones are on either side of my camera.
Oh,
Didn't know that. How does my voice sound right now?
your voice is good.
All right, great.
There's like no background noise or anything, so there's like no complaints.
Great, great. Yeah. So, are we gonna do part one or part nine?
I think I don't know. People keep going back and forth.
Yeah, because okay, part nine has the reason why you suggested part nine was because it has more characters, right?
I didn't suggest part nine,
Oh,
but
okay.
I mean, I think there's like 12 of us actually. Some people didn't click that they were interested and said they were joining, so I have no idea how many people. But there's gonna be a lot of us.
Yeah, 10 or 12. Ask Stafford if he happens to have a.
But like, if we're
Oh,
alternating narrators between each chapter, I don't.
yeah.
I think it doesn't really matter which part we do, at least in
Yeah, yeah,
terms of main
because
characters.
even part nine, it's still going to have a very high bias to Mila narration.
Oh yeah,
So, like, even if there are more Peep characters, they're still not going to have that many lines.
yeah.
Hey,
Hello,
mine. Wait,
hello.
what should we call you for like? I feel like mine might be kind of confusing.
Yeah. Hello.
Oh, you can call me Risa. Okay, I just read that in the bio. In
Risa.
their bio. I just clicked on their bio and it says Risa. So
Uh. Okay. Yeah. I see.
nice. Also, I like the aromantic heart flags. Um, I'm looking at this list. There are a bunch of characters. But they still don't have that many lines. Oh, okay, that's great. The spreadsheet. Oh wait, yeah.
I don't know
All right.
where the spreadsheet is.
Yeah, all right. So no, hold on. Let's go entire work for part one. And then let's write it. Part one. Uh, we have Mila, Mila, the Mila is the boys that found her. Well, I'm gonna write miscellaneous. Mila, Xena, Ness, Bert, Miss, Miss, miscellaneous kids, miscellaneous kids. That'll include the two boys that found her. Um, miscellaneous kids, and two, uh, at least two boys that found her. Uh, Laura slash Reese. Okay. Mila, Xena, Ness, Bert. Does Tuli actually have any lines?
Uh, I they no at the end of part one at the very least. They end up like in the temple, like they're
Oh
hiding.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I don't remember if there's any other parts. So
yeah,
like
yeah.
Damuel and
Mm,
Fran as well also have lines.
yeah. I think so. You how do you pronounce it Damwell?
Yeah, Damuel,
Oh wait, yeah, Daniel.
like
Yeah,
it's
it's remember.
Samuel.
Yeah, she Mia Kazuki misspelled Samuel.
Oh man, I still find that funny.
Yeah, no, it's like also it's because he's such a failure. Like
Yeah.
even his life started with Nessa Bert kids. Hold on. What if I, you know, could use quotes to go through? Probably gonna regret this, but I can control F for quotes to go through every like person who talks.
It would take quite a bit. Holy moly, 2,357.
Okay, you can divide it by two because there's two quotes on each line, but it's still like 1,000. Honestly, 1,000 lines of dialogue for the whole part for like 70,000 words.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just a lot to go
Uh,
through to find all the characters.
Two boys. There's another, and there's also quotes that aren't like in dialogue.
Yeah, like
Uh,
sarcasm or
no.
air quoting, paraphrasing words, whatever. There's Xena.
Yeah, there's the green haired and the pink haired boy that she scares half to death. And then there's I think a few mentions of other kids.
Hello.
Hello. Hey, Faye. Um, Bert. Right, mom, dad. And I'll just scroll down.
Oh, Jeep Haldenzel, because they go to Haddonzel in part one.
Um, in part one, oh yeah. I'm kind of writing this in like a base order right now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's Xena.
Yeah. Also, sort of trying to sort of count out the the number of miscellaneous people.
There's
Okay, I found.
Benno, Mark, and Otto.
um, Xena. Xena. That's Bert. Yeah, miscellaneous people.
Hello.
Yeah, and there are Mila stops some random guys from stealing their mine and Litz's paper making stuff. Uh,
Yeah, cause
hey,
Hello.
hello.
hey, hello.
Mila like defends like mine and Lutz's stuff,
Litz's paper stuff, and
and then
so that's a
then
keep.
she meets Otto.
Oh, now auto. I'm going through sort of in order, finding all the talking lines in part one. After mine. Yeah. Oh yeah, then that's Ness. There are a few parts where like, I think specifically with Ness and Bert, they have lines before we learn their names. So like that'll need to be, yeah, like Mila's first introduction to Ness when she's screaming. It just says a child scream. You just need to remember that that's Ness. I think, yeah. And then yeah, Bert, no. Ness. Yeah, I think the reason I'm trying to think about why part one feels so much longer than the others. I think it's just because of like how much time it covers. Like,
Yeah,
Hello.
it's also 34 chapters. Hello.
like there are a bunch of more smaller distinct things that happen. Mila. Oh yeah, there's the Faystone shop owner. Faystone is shop owner. Like yeah, so Faystone shop owner is like an older guy.
Yeah.
I think we have a wide enough distribution of voices here that we can have people sort of go for voices that sound more similar to what they are. You know?
Yeah.
Enough feminine and masculine voices. And people can also always raise and lower their voice a bit.
So I guess we're definitely doing part 1 then.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already scrolling through a bunch of quotes, so I hope we are.
Oh, Jesus. AO3 just fucking flashbanged me with its pure white background.
AO3
Oh,
needs a
no.
dark mode, I swear to God.
I think it does, doesn't it?
Skins and stuff
It
you can do to
does?
change.
Yeah, you
I
can.
feel like you can. So I know it's like it's compatible with HTML.
You can
I
just
just don't
force
know.
the dark mode if you use the right browser, I guess.
Yeah, I just don't know how to do that.
Right click on the page if it says like force dark page or something.
I've never seen that symbol before. Someone just had like a angry exclamation point show up on their name. That was terrifying.
On PC, it should be all the way in the bottom left of the page. Try, I think it's reversey.
It is.
Is that? Yeah, Ness and Bert's dad when they're shows up when they're doing Peru gathering. Ness and
Oh, that is
Bert.
much better on the eyes.
Oh my
Dad.
God. I can't believe I've been without this my whole life.
It's not as bad as like Discord white mode. That's a
Oh,
bit bright.
Discord light mode is an abomination.
Yes.
Built for sociopaths.
Oh yeah, we need a few miscellaneous girls at the baptism. At Xena's baptism. Like misc girls at baptism who are like fanning over their Vincham. Yeah. So does everyone who isn't muted want to have a speaking role?
I'm
Yes.
more just muted because I wasn't sure if there would be feedback because I'm in a small room.
Yeah, sure. We'll just talk and we'll see if we can hear you. You know.
There's a
Okay.
push to talk if you want. You can go in settings and do a push to talk.
Probably.
I'm on my phone. Should I go grab my laptop?
Maybe if that'll sound nice. There's a tavern owner where Mila works for a bit at their mom's store, her mom's shop. Yeah. Who wants to play Mila's dad?
An abusive alcoholic?
I mean, to be fair, villains are fun to play.
I mean,
I don't know about alcoholic abusers, but yeah, I agree with that statement.
I may not be within the within the range, but I'll open a
Like,
bottle of tequila.
Mila's
We can
parents,
go that way.
yeah, Mila's parents have a good amount of lines in this part one. You know, you don't want to yell at someone. accuse them of poisoning?
Okay. I can do Mila's dad.
Yeah, you want to do that?
I don't. I don't want to, but like I'm
That's
a
okay. No,
male.
it's fine. We'll just judge you for the rest of your life. It's
Yeah.
nothing.
I just gotta hope my parents don't hear me, or God forbid, my siblings.
Did you tell your people you're living with that you're going to be doing an acting thing today?
Yes, I did.
Okay, good. Yeah. Once I was in the school play in grade 12, and once I was like practicing my lines in my room. So I normally don't, I haven't really acted in a while. And my mom was like, "What are you doing?" She thought I was like, "Do you need something?" Because I was just yelling randomly. And I was just reading lines. Auto. We probably need a few miscellaneous gray priests and shrine maidens. Okay, so yeah, now who wants to be the high bishop?
Everyone loves Santa.
We'll also need a Jenny.
I actually I forgot Jenny. I forgot she
Yeah.
was in part 1.
Yeah.
She's kind of forgettable.
She also deserved it, but
Jenny
I
was
mean,
just sort of there to destroy
she's a
Mila's
complicated
self-esteem.
person, like, yeah, she took out her anger on the wrong people. She deserved it less than Arno. I'll say that.
Well, Arno, yeah, no. Arno was the deepest
bo-
pit of hell.
They both have like sort of the same crime of victim blaming, but like Arno was worse.
Starlo, I think your mic is echoing.
Alright. Jenny.
Hmm.
Alright. Yeah. Yeah, then we need Ferdinand. Yeah, like there are a lot of rules.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it does take place over like a year and a
A
half,
long time,
right?
yeah. There are the people. There's the lower city rules. The first part where it's like Ness, Dina, Bert, Mila's parents, Otto, and some miscellaneous people. Then there's like Jenny, Ferdinand, High Bishop,
Sylvester.
Bono. Yeah, Sylvester, mine, and Karsta, all like more roles, all centered at the end. Oh, hold on, I'm just scrolling through. I'm at 22.
Don't we basically have most people that were part of part 1 and 2 of the story?
Um,
With some notable exceptions.
hold on. Okay.
We also have the bunch of mooks from chapter 32.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There are a few roles that is miscellaneous. People don't want to talk that much, or yeah, we need to.
Oh yeah, part 1 Mila like nearly kills herself.
Yeah, that part. Yeah. Hey, could I be talking Mila role like when she's speaking?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't mind.
Yay. I think I'm confident. Jenny. Benno, Mark. Oh yeah, there's Shiksa as well. Okay. So, Benno and Mark. Does Lutz have any lines in this part?
Surely, yeah, right?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, because like, he doesn't come to the temple at the end, does he?
I think he shows up in like the
In the
final
forest?
like the final cutscene, pretty much.
Yeah,
It's
like they all
I know
show
that
up in her room.
in Bookworm canon at the very he. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna go in line so that I don't miss anyone. Okay, Jenny. Xena.
Oh no, Lutz talks. Lutz was in the temple, with everyone else while they're hiding.
Alright, I'll get to it. Oh yeah. Zam shows up briefly. I might just put that as Misk Grey Priests though. Yeah, Zam shows up.
Eckhart's there, but I don't think he speaks.
Yeah. Then okay, and the trauma extermination. Then we have Shiksa.
Lots of antagonist male roles in this one.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, Fran as well shows up briefly. Wait, does Fran actually have any lines in this? Not sure. No, I'm pretty sure.
It may be best to try to split the characters between the first and second half. Like both the parents aren't gonna show up
Yeah,
in
that's
the
true.
second
Yeah,
half.
I'm just writing it in order. I'm writing all the characters in order. So like, the High Bishop is where the second. Once I send this post, the High Bishop will be where it stops. Large Shiksa, Ferdinand. Oh yeah, no, Fran does have lines. Yeah, Jenny has a lot of lines. Yeah, they probably should have tried to get this done sooner. Ferdinand. Oh. Okay, how big of a role does everyone want?
I mean, I, I think I'm confident enough for quite a bit, but
Yeah, I'm socially confident, but I also know that not everyone is the same way, and some people might not want to, like, do a lot of talking. So people should probably. I wonder if we can make like a marker, like I don't know, like voice or
Just because of like
uh,
major role doesn't mean they have major role in that specific part. So it'd be hard to tell unless we know which ones we're
yeah,
doing.
I'm going.
How are we handling the narration parts?
I think that's best if we just take turns.
Okay.
Take turns during narration, and then people also have. And then, I mean, the opening of part one also does imply that Mila's narration voice is different from her actual voice because she gets surprised when she talks. So
I mean, I
that
imagine
works
that's
for
because
that.
she's thinking in her old voice.
Right.
Also, you don't really think in a voice,
Well, yeah, then
Your voice is your vocal cord.
abnormal, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I can
Right.
think in other people's voices.
Well, yeah.
I mean, Mila more
There's
than like anyone in the story definitely thinks differently from how she speaks.
yeah, Ink Guild goons that Mila tries to rip off and then fails.
Yeah. She's like 50 layers deep in bluffing everyone.
Yeah, there's 3 Ink Guild goons that Mila beats up.
Does it
Or
really
not,
differentiate which one's
or
speaking
fails.
though, or does only one speak?
Yeah, I'm at 29, almost there.
We
Oh yeah, mine. Oh yeah, mine shows. Yeah, she has that meeting with mine.
oh yeah, where like she hands the poem.
She gives her a warning that Jenny's dedication ritual.
I forgot that mine was the character in a sense of a bookworm. Crazy.
Well, I forgot that she had roles before the finale. I know she has that. Oh yeah, for the other POV chapters, the epilogue and such. Should whoever the character is just voice those?
Probably.
But yeah, that would work because the characters who I think it's like mine and Sylvester or something like they aren't characters that have too many lines. I don't think so. That will work. Uh, there's a random blue priest in dedication ritual.
Wait, does Sylvester have
Yes.
a point of view in part 1?
I don't know. Does he have a point of view in the end? Whatever. I'll get to it.
I thought it was the beginning of part 2, and like mine does have
Maybe.
a POV at the end.
Yeah. Alright. Was the spring prayer thing might have been in part 2 actually.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
I think so. Well,
Or
I'm already almost at the end. Yeah.
Wait,
So
no, there's a spring prayer in part 1.
right, because it's before
It's meant to be
Veronica's
right now.
fall.
I'm already almost at the end, so I don't think so.
It should be in one briefly because
Oh
Veronica
yeah,
falls
no,
after.
here it is. Yeah, Journey to Haldensal. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And like she goes
So where
through
you,
a few
this
ones in between, like on her way.
Yeah, yeah. It is. Yeah.
She meets the Geeb Hadrinzo, and on the way back she meets those mooks.
Oh yeah, Erie.
Oh right, Erie.
It's okay to be proud to be German. This is a very important principle, and
Are you watching
it's
something,
it's
Star?
okay. It's good
Or
to
you're-
be German culture, German values, and not to lose that in some sort of
Star, are you
multiculturalism.
watching something, or is that just you talking, reading something aloud?
Everything.
Well, that was loud.
Yeah. Yeah, Geep Howland's on. I'd probably spell that, but whatever. Uh, how many people actually talk? Yeah, now we need. Okay, so now then there's the attackers, like bring prayer attackers. So I'm looking in here, there are like a bunch of people, like what are they shouting? They find something good, what blue, step aside, what's inside? Like a bunch of people kind of talking at the same time. Maybe we can just have everyone, aside from Mila and Yuri, just like we'll say lines like in order, you know?
Yeah, you could just
That
kind
could
of
work.
toss it to
Like everyone,
everyone.
there's the lead bandit, and then we'll have spring prayer attackers, lead spring prayer bandit, and there'll be the lead bandit, and then everyone else, it'll be a different person will say every other line, so that'll make it seem like there are more people because there's a crowd.
Yeah. Uh,
Actually, yeah. Well, there's not really a leader. There's just the one guy, a man with a sharp attitude, who is claiming that Mila's playing them and isn't actually a blue priest. Whatever. I'll call him the lead bandit.
Wasn't that a mayor in one of the later parts?
That's a different character. Yeah, there are.
He was
It's the mayor.
he was at a future spring prayer, but he wasn't the mayor. He was someone in the crowd.
Yeah.
it would be pretty weird for a mayor to attack
I mean-
a carriage.
Yeah. They're like farmers.
They're just townspeople, so
The nest shows up again. Nah. My bishop. Oh yeah, does Bindlewald have any lines? Oh right, yeah, I forgot. Bindlewald was in the spring.
Red con toad.
Hello. Wilma has a few. Wilma shows up.
Yeah, the last chapter is like a lot of new people.
Yeah.
Does Delia get a line?
Delia? I haven't heard one so far. She might have one in the confrontation.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Right. And then yeah. Daniel doesn't actually have any lines until the final confrontation.
No, he doesn't have a line at all during the Trump incident.
Nope. Okay, but Thule has. Yeah, I think Thule Julie. Yeah. Gunther.
Oh, Delia didn't actually say anything. Dang.
I'm scrolling.
Oh 6 hours. Okay, damn.
6 hours for what?
Bien Alai just said that text to speech for part 1 is 6 hours long.
Yeah, we might not finish the whole thing. I just want to get all the parts where characters are gonna have. If not, we can stop halfway through when they switch the temple. Mine, Gunther, Truly, Daniel, Truly, Daniel. Truly. Oh yeah, Lutz does have a line, but it's minor. Oh yeah, the knights. There's like an understood when Daniel organizes the knight's order. The knight. You need a random guy to play a knight. Yeah. Oh yeah, Delia. Yeah, Delia does have a line. Delia. Count Bindelwald. No. Hold on. Almost done. And that's the confrontation. All right, almost there. Jenny, Gunther. Yeah. Ferdinand.
C'est verificando.
Oh, hello.
Yeah. Hello.
Your mic worked that time.
Do you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Finally. I was speaking from half an hour and I thought that everyone ignores me.
Oh,
I was literally thinking that everyone ignores me and I was getting annoyed. And then I decided to ask if you managed to hear me. And then someone wrote that they don't hear me. And I was like, that makes so much sense.
Do you have a push to talk on?
Yeah, I had to push the talk on. So I just turned it off and it seemingly works. I have no idea what's going on. Don't ask me.
Does Cars actually have any lines here? I'm on at the epilogue. It's just.
So I was asking if anyone picked the mom role.
No, not yet. I'm
If
just
no-
finishing scrolling through all of the I'm at the epilogue. Just finishing going through getting a list of all the characters in part 1.
Sorry, I won't bother you.
You're not bothering.
Oh, it feels so weird to be heard. Like
Yeah.
really, it feels so good to be heard.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, no, Karshit doesn't have a line.
Jouvert. I need to get used to actually pronouncing Jouvert. How do you guys pronounce Jouvert? Because I know I'm pronouncing it wrong.
Jurev?
Jurev?
Jurev.
Jurev? Jurev?
Jurev?
Jurev?
Yuri.
Jurev, yeah.
So I read it wrong the first time, so in my head it's Juruve, but then like I started looking back and it's R
Yeah,
and then E, not
yeah,
the other way
same.
around.
It's Jouvert. It's Jouvert to me. Mine.
Jurev.
Yes.
I just realized that I probably pronounce the Dutchies
you
very
don't need to worry about
differently than
pronunciations
the
too
majority
much.
of people.
They can be a bit different. It's just that I'm literally saying a different word. So,
Lol.
Sylvester.
Also,
Carson doesn't have any.
I did save it. Okay.
All right,
Continue.
great.
Continue. I won't bother you.
Have all right. Those are all the characters in part 1 who are speaking lines. So now we got actually assigned roles
Can you copy paste them in the chat?
into the VC chat.
Yes, in the general chat in the Discord.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like that.
I think we agreed we're gonna rotate narrators, and then everyone, and then people will be assigned an individual role. Yeah, we can just go for the first half.
Also, I wanted to ask something here that will be possible. Like, we have chapters that are from the perspective of some characters, and such chapters, could they be narrated by the one from whose perspective it is? Like, for example, if that's a chapter from Sylvester's perspective, it should be narrated with Sylvester's actor.
Yeah, I think that would work. In part
What do you
1,
think about that?
that's the mind perspective. So now we got to assign roles. Can I, if you guys, unless anyone else wants to it, could I do Mila's talking lines?
Yeah, go ahead.
Who?
Me.
Okay.
/ Ace or whatever you want to call me. Yeah. So. No. Manvi, you're
No.
muted.
Manvi, no. You're
Now
muted.
you're muted. Yeah. So
Yes.
we need Xena.
I'm looking from either Xena or Mila's mom. One of us two.
Mila's mom. Okay, yeah. You can. I think you could do Mila's mom. You seem fit. You seem good. Anyone? Does anyone else want to be either Xena or Mila's mom?
I don't mind being either one, but honestly, I can't promise how well I'll actually act anything out. I normally just narrate stories.
No, same.
You have a mom voice. Wheels.
Well, that fits. I am a mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, you have. Yeah, you sound.
Yeah, you
someone
do
who's
have
mom.
a bit of a mom voice. I think you'll do that pretty well.
That just means you need to act less. If it's just your natural voice, just pretend that you're talking to your kids. Well, actually, maybe don't, because Mila's mom isn't a very good mom. But
yeah.
I guess you can be Xena.
Yeah, if no one else wants to.
All right, sure.
Sorry, I don't really mind what role I have. I just put Furies.
Sure. So now we need.
Like, I don't
Ness
mind
and a
if
Bart.
anyone wants.
Didn't we say that Shoko had a good voice for a Ness?
Manvi, I think.
For Ness?
I don't remember who.
Or Ness.
Who was that?
Like, she wrote in the chat something.
I'm cataloging all the rules right now. As you guys
all right,
say.
awesome.
I'm doing the dad.
Yeah, man, you can Ness. But no, we can't hear you. Manvi, we can't hear you right now.
I'm not talking. That's
Oh, there you are.
Now
we can hear you.
Yeah, there you are.
So, yeah, so Manvi is Ness. We need a Bert.
Bert, anyone?
Bert?
Come on, people, go for roles, pick a role.
people talk up.
That can be
Also, if
weird.
you find someone with a higher pitched voice than mine, could also work for Zina.
Yeah.
I think she would fit someone with a higher pitched voice.
Yeah, for the kids. And there are, I feel like there is actually a trend from, there are more lower pitched voices in the Celeste.
Oh,
Uh,
a Semdoc says they're open for male roles.
a Semdoc?
Yes, that would be correct.
Yes, you.
Yes, me.
Do you want to be like, wait, talk again?
Hello? I
Hello?
am talking. How art thou doing today on this fine merry day?
Yeah, oh, that is, you have a really good.
Yeah,
They want to
geez,
be
whoa.
You have a really good
There's a
vocal
host.
voice.
You have no clue what anyone just
Yeah.
said. It just collided all together into a mishmash.
Yeah, so,
I think you'll do a nice noble voice.
or
Yeah,
do you want to do like Otto or the face stone shop owner?
Sure, I can do that.
You just
All
you
right,
can have both.
Bert. Yeah. Or
Neither.
maybe face stone owner and Ness and Bert's dad. They both only have small roles. Docs, are you good with that?
I'm sorry, could you please repeat that? My mind just completely blanked.
How do you feel about playing the face stone shop owner and Ness and Bert's dad? They both are pretty. They both don't show up too many times, so I thought that's best for his two roles.
Sure. I'm good for whatever. Let me just write down what it is
Alright,
that I'm
wait.
doing, though.
So
I'm keeping track, so don't worry about that.
yeah, Simti, did you say you were gonna
Okay.
play Mila's dad,
Yeah, I'll play Mia's dad.
and then Wiggles will be Mila's mom? We need a Bert.
Who's that?
It's that kid that's helping Ness' brother. The guy who catches Schumer's with face stone.
Yeah, all right. Well, we can go back to Bert later and move on. We'll also need just the two.
Yeah.
I think there are at least 3 different miscellaneous kids. There are the 2 boys that found her when she did a little prank on, and there was at least one other one who I think she overheard talking about Thule.
Well, go
Those two
slightly higher or lower pitch for someone.
Yeah, they're just random kids. It doesn't matter. They can be anyone.
Yeah.
Who we need Otto. Who wants to be Otto?
I could take Otto if no one else will.
Sure.
Yeah.
Otto. Lastly, we need a higher pitched voice to be one of the girls at Xena's or Mila's baptism, who was like gushing over the Rinsham.
I could do that.
Who is that?
I guess I could try.
Fairy?
Yeah.
Alright, sure, Fairy can be one of the girls in the
Fairy.
and Fairy, you also want to be just one of the miscellaneous people gathering that I think she overhears talking about Thule.
Yeah, I could do that. I was also thinking maybe Jenny and Velma.
Yeah, you can be Jenny when we do that. One thing is, I'm trying to cut it at right before the High Bishop because that's like around a good stopping point. And then once we get there, we can decide if we want to continue. Because, like I said, it does take a while.
Yep, at least a few hours.
Yeah, so we need lastly, we need the tavern owner that Mila works at.
Was
like
the
a male
tavern
voice.
owner male or female?
Male.
Oh.
Like the restaurant that Mila's mom works at, and she works at a bit after her baptism.
Alright.
Yeah, the first part has a lot of male voices.
Yeah. Although some of them are kids, so they're
I'm
more higher pitched.
silent.
Who wants to be the tavern?
Yeah.
Who hasn't got a role that wants one yet?
I'm open for any sort of a miscellaneous male voice.
Alright,
You
do
can
you
have
want
it
to be the
then.
tavern?
You have it.
Ally?
What did I win? What did I win?
Do you want to be the tavern owner or at the
Yeah,
restaurant
sure.
that Mila works at for a
Absolutely.
bit? So, okay.
Absolutely.
Who does not have a role yet and wants a role?
I just posted all the roles that we have right now.
Awesome.
All the names till are like whatever. You get the idea. Everyone who has a role has currently been assigned.
We need so who's gonna play? We need one guy to play. It was the pink-haired boy and the green-haired boy that Mila scares half to death with her pretend to hit yourself in the head with a rock trick. Any people that want roles? Or we can start doubling up here.
Okay then.
And we also still need a Bert. Faye, are you?
I don't know.
Risa, what did he say?
Okay, I was like thinking. I don't know if my voice really fits Zena, but
if you want,
I could do either Bert or Zena.
Yeah, I mean, you want to switch to Bert, you can. The point of this is to have fun, you know?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, like I'm not sure. Like for me,
but you want to do Bert? Okay.
Either one.
You can do both if you want.
You know, fuck it. Go for.
I mean, no, I think they share
I don't
scenes
know.
together.
I think it would take too much.
Yeah. No, Xena and Bert share scenes together.
Okay. Yeah.
Does anybody want to? Anybody? Or we can start doubling up here now.
All right then.
So, Faye, are you trying to talk? I saw you go green for a bit, but I can't hear anything. Oh, you know, okay. Can everyone who doesn't want to act mute themselves, and people who do want to act unmute themselves, so we know who we're working with?
Can you try saying anything for Faye?
Yeah, you just go and go. Faye, if you don't know what lines fit your voice, you can just Faye, just say something, anything.
Anything.
Anything? Okay.
Anything.
Do you have a deeper voice then? All right.
Bro, we were looking for deeper voices till now.
Yeah.
Like we were looking
How
for
deep?
deeper voices. We were asking.
Yeah.
Yours is okay.
Do you want to be one of the boys that Mila, the boys in at the start of part and like the first chapter that go get Xena?
What?
You want to be one of the boys that there are two boys in chapter 1 who Mila scares by hitting her head with a rock. We need those two.
I mean, if you want me to, I can try, but my voice, I don't think it's really fits young boys.
Yeah, I mean, like, but once again, the voice, it doesn't really matter. We're just having fun. You know, we can, when we do a more official podfic later, then we can try and pick roles that fit more.
Honestly,
but like
at this point, I think we should just wing it from now. Like we have all the important roles. If we can just decide on the fly.
Yeah. Okay. Faye gonna be one of the boys. We just need whatever. It's gonna be. You want to be the second boy? There's like a pink-haired boy and a green-haired boy, I think.
Okay, I'll do the green-haired boy.
Sure. Well, enough that you are a pink cantaloupe PFP. Sure. Yeah, and then Barry can do whatever. All right, I think that's good for everyone. And we can. Anything else? We can work as we go. Okay. Now,
okay.
Everyone who doesn't want to talk, please mute yourself. Or you guys should have a role of who's gonna do the narration. Oh.
I don't know what my voice is good for, but
Who just said that?
BCJ.
ECJ? Okay. Yeah, sure. You know, it doesn't matter. There are also a bunch of more roles that we need in that second half of part 1.
Lol.
So should we just rotate narration like in order of how it is in in alphabetical order, which is how it appears in the voice chat?
Sure.
Everyone who is muted right now, we'll just take turns and then go back up to the top.
How can I see the order? It's just showing a bunch of tiles to me.
Oh, you're on mobile? Okay. Can we
Oh wait, I found it.
Alright, got it. So, hold on, let me just gotta go scroll up to the top. Chapter by chapter. So I guess, does everyone want to start?
Yeah, let's
Oh,
start.
I guess I'm also an A, so I guess I'll just start talking. Are you recording?
Yeah, I've been recording since I first entered the call.
I am.
Okay, so we don't have a bird.
I think I should mute. Then I will only open when my line comes. Because of sensitivity.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 11, 12, around 12. Yeah, and alright, so
We're reading part 1 or part 9?
part 1.
Okay.
Part 1.
Yeah, alright, I'm gonna start reading now. How did I get here? What's this for us? I was frantically looking around myself. My breath was getting heavy and I felt like I was suffocating. Was I drugged? The last thing I remembered was reading a light novel late into the night, but the birds were chirping loudly at the time, so it must have been morning. I closed my eyes to focus on those last memories, but all I saw was a screen with the text I had been reading. The memory suddenly receded, as if something was pulling me from it. And then everything went dark. I opened my eyes again. The feeling of unease was still bottled up inside me, but the initial panic was gone. Warm sunlight lit the greenery around me, and I heard some children talking nearby. So at least I wasn't stranded in the middle of nowhere. That was nice. I turned their way and made one step before I realized that something was weird. I was much smaller. What the? I started whispering, stopping the second the words left my mouth. Okay, that wasn't my voice. That was a child's voice. Seriously, what the hell? And just at that moment, I saw 2 boys who were speaking a few seconds ago. One had green hair and yellow eyes, and the other was facing away from me, but still, pinkish hair didn't look normal either. My mind was racing back and forth. Like, the last thing I read was that Bookworm series, and people in that world did have an anime color palette for their eyes and hair. I grabbed a strand of my hair to look at it and saw that it was light green. I was definitely not in my body. It was a pretty weak assumption on its own, but since I had absolutely no idea where I was, this place might as well have been the last thing I'd been reading about. If that's the case, shouldn't I get some memories from whoever this body belonged to? I mean, mine did at the start. But then again, was this the same world as in the story? And even if it was, did I get here the same way as her? She didn't just end up in a world she had been reading about. Was I in the body of someone from here, or did I just appear out of nowhere? There was a storm of questions raging inside of me. My head was spinning. I closed my eyes again, still running on the assumption that I knew what world I was in. Even though I might be wrong, at least I didn't feel so completely lost. If I just appeared here, that would kind of suck, because that would mean I was an outsider without citizenship or any support. But if I was in the body of someone, that could be a complication as well, since, well, I was an outsider. Come on, give me some memories, or at least someone tell me if I'm where I think I am. But no one answered me, so I kept my eyes closed. I didn't really think that all my problems would disappear if I just kept my eyes shut, but I was overwhelmed.
Hey, Milo.
Santi.
What are you doing?
A boy spoke in my direction. I opened my eyes. The boy with green hair was looking at me. I took a quick look behind my back just to be sure. It would have been pretty awkward if he was talking to someone else. I feel tired. I think I'll rest a little, I replied.
Okay.
He said back, immediately disappearing behind a tree. That went well, I thought to myself with relief. And it answered at least some of my questions. I was someone from this world. At minimum, that meant I had somewhere to sleep, and I didn't have to try and survive in this forest on my own. And I understood the language. That was pretty important to get around. But it was also different from what happened to mine. She knew the language because of her memories. No, wait, I think it was the other way around. She gained memories of her past life. She had already known the language. It was hard to think clearly. At this point, my mind was just firing randomly. No matter, I collected my thoughts. There were more immediate issues to worry about. The first thing I wanted to do was look around and get some information about the place. I walked in the direction the two boys had gone, and after a while, I found other children with weird hair colors. In the book illustrations, different colored hair looked pretty and natural, but in real life, it felt kind of bizarre. I went around a few groups. It seemed pretty lively with so many people, but I couldn't find the two boys I knew.
Okay.
On the other hand, I noticed a different group that caught my eye. They were dragging blue-colored rabbits by their feet, and there was a green-haired girl in the middle with a hairstyle I recognized. My heart was pumping with excitement. I changed my direction and walked near them, as if I was just going the same way. All while, I was trying to listen in on their conversation. After a few dozen meters, I finally heard what I wanted. I think Farah, you wanted to start?
What do you think, Julie?
A child near her said. That was it. Now I had certainty. Like, there is no way I got transported to some other world with such a specific similarity. Well, technically, I didn't recognize her at all. I had only ever seen an illustration of her character, but I never actually seen what she looked like in reality. But that hairstyle can be translated even from illustration. And well, there is her name, and her green hair, and she's a girl. Okay, so it wasn't so certain if those were generic in this world. But at this point, I was running on my you were in this world that you've read about theory. The moment I anchored my position, a flood of maps and illustrations ran through my head, and I could finally start to think about all this. I knew this world, which brought me a certain comfort, but I had a realization immediately after that. But this world sucks, I said to myself with my brows knitted. I knew the world and I knew the story. There was no way around this. This world was terrible. Judging by the fact that I was gathering in a forest, I was certainly dirt poor, so my standard of living would do a nosedive in all departments. Hygiene would be bad, modern entertainment like TV shows, PC, games, and books were out of reach. There was a class system where I was at the bottom, and food availability would be a joke as well. Cold sweat ran down my back. I had no applicable skills for this. Things I majored in required these silly things like computers and electricity. Me knowing how to operate a camera or cut videos was completely useless. Everything I knew relied on modern society. I sat down on a rock and cradled my head. My mind was desperately blinking between various inventions. If I got just one to work, I could be set for life. But after a few minutes of thinking, I still had nothing. I either knew modern things that couldn't be reproduced here, or I knew about modern things that could be reproduced here, but I had only a vague idea about how they actually worked, so I still couldn't actually reproduce them. Mine was so lucky that she had actually done things in her previous life. Hell, I had read the first part of the series twice, and I still wouldn't be able to replicate how she had made paper. Pictures of bark, steaming, and rivers were jumbling in my head without any composition. The only thing I could replicate is Rensham, I muttered. Its creation was so simple that even I could follow the steps just from reading about it. But I couldn't exactly do that either. If I remember the story correctly, mine would only survive the first part of it by the skin of her teeth. And one of the main reasons for that would be the money she earned. There would be various instances where she would need a magic tool, a magic contract, or just the power of money to negotiate. I would feel awful if I caused her death by tipping the scales in the wrong direction. I had never met her, but if I was in the right world, in which she actually existed, I kinda knew her through multiple volumes of the light novel. I mean, it was definitely raining when I read about how she was separated from her family. I make it worse than... It crossed my mind to just leave the city to not tamper with the timeline. But if I was being honest, I was a chicken. I wasn't brave enough to go into the wilderness outside the walls, not in this world. So I was assuring myself that the timeline would be totally screwed up by this Mila not existing in the city, because her disappearance would totally have some impact on the events. I mean, she might bump into someone who would be early for their meeting, which results in a different outcome, and 20 steps down the line, one of the main characters in the story will change their decision based on that, right? So I don't have to travel through the wilderness with babies or end up in some village where they sell young children to slavery, especially young girls for flower offerings. I shuddered. Nope, I was sticking to the city, which meant that I had to start thinking hard. First, I had to actually figure out who I was and where I lived. And since I didn't have any memories, I had to find a way to interact with people I knew. Then I could figure out what to do with this life. I had no useful skills for this pre-modern age. My only advantage was knowledge of future events in Mine's story. And that contained problems as well, because I didn't know the whole thing. I got here after I had finished reading the 7th volume of Part 4. So while I knew the future, I didn't have the full picture. And without the full picture, it was almost impossible to make a reliable plan. It would be like coming to Mine and telling her to avoid Frida because she wanted to trick her away from Benno, without the later knowledge that Frida considered Mine to be her friend, and because of that, she was willing to sell one of her magic tools to save her life. I would be basically killing her by helping. Since I knew nothing about Part 5, I was worried that my advice could actually make things worse in the long run. Should I warn her about her encounter with the High Bishop? Or about the later attacks? Or about times she messed up? I slapped myself lightly. That kind of thinking could wait. I needed to start with my first obstacle. How to sell myself not knowing anything. Maybe I could play amnesia? That might work if I could get my hands on some fruit and red juice. But the only thing I knew about the plants here was that they were weird. I knew about Taos/Trombes since they were mentioned multiple times in the story, but I had an awful memory for these things. Then I got an idea. I set out in the direction of the river. Originally, I had been following Tuli and her group there, but I stopped right when I heard someone mention her name. After a few hundred meters, I could hear water running in front of me. They were already leaving when I arrived, so I took a few steps to the riverbank where they had been butchering shoe mills. Yes! There's still some blood here! This is so much better than regular fruit juice. I smeared the blood on the hair around my temple. Then I cleaned my hand and picked up the bloodiest rock. I exhaled. Now to find the boy who knew me. It was actually pretty challenging. I had to circle all the other children at a distance so nobody would notice my bloody rock or hair. But after a few minutes, I finally found them. Both the green and pink-haired boys were cutting something in front of them with their knives, so they looked completely focused. This was perfect for me. I put a rock down near a tree, then slowly laid my head on it. When I was in the perfect position, I screamed as if I had just tripped. Then I slowly got up into a sitting position. I wasn't going to traumatize the children by playing unconscious when I already had blood props to make it believable.
Hey, are you alright?
The green-haired boy turned first. I think so, but my head hurts, I said, playing my part. As they got closer, they noticed the blood and flinched in surprise.
You're bleeding!
They both stared at me with wide eyes, so I continued my act. I feel fine. A little dizzy, but I can't remember. I shut my eyes as if trying to think of something. I'm sorry. Do you know who I am? I can't remember how I got here. My face looked confused, or at least that's what I hoped it looked. I never pretended to experience memory loss before. It was probably quite convincing, because the boys seemed panicked. They turned to each other.
What do we do?
Hey?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe she should go home.
They looked at me.
Mila, do you remember where you live?
I froze a little. The green-haired boy asked. I froze a little. I had thought he had been Mila's friend or something. Did I just play the trick on two boys who knew my name and nothing else? Should I ask them who Mila was? Or would that be playing too hard? In the end, I just shook my head in refusal. The pink-haired boy scratched his head. They?
And we meet them at the gate, which is usually with Zeno, right?
The second boy nodded in agreement.
We should find her.
He continued.
Yeah.
His friend agreed. They both looked at me and told me to stay put while they ran further into the woods. I leaned against the tree and looked up at the sky. Well, I really hope Zeta knows me, I muttered. Alright. Then I guess, Asemdox, you'd be next up on narration?
Sure, I can do that. Chapter 2. I do have a friend, kinda. Okay. The boys came back with a girl who was slightly taller than them. She had blonde hair and blue eyes, and she looks kind of annoyed. Should this be Mila or no?
It should be Mila or... I can
Mila,
narrate
sorry.
your narration thoughts as well.
Okay, will do.
Yeah.
They find someone who doesn't like me? Oh, I'm sorry,
yeah,
what?
I'm just talking. You do the thoughts.
Okay, got it. For a second, sorry. For a short second, I wondered how to play it, but I decided to go with a simple greeting.
You.
I smiled, hoping that my nervousness was not showing. Her face changed from annoyance to confusion.
Hi?
She said with a questioning tone. Then she turned to the boys.
So, she doesn't remember anything.
They both nodded repeatedly. She lowered her eyes and sighed. I could sympathize with that expression. She raised her head to look back at them.
Thank you for helping. You can go back to gathering.
She was older than them, so she probably didn't want to bother younger children with this problem, especially when they didn't know me. They both nodded at once and headed back to their spot. That left just the two of us, which made me even more nervous since I didn't know her. And I didn't know how she knew me. Here goes nothing. I bit my tongue and opened my mouth.
Hi. The boys said they were going to get Xena. Is that your name?
Got her attention as I was smiling. Smiling should be good, right? It makes you look friendly, right?
Yeah, that's my name.
Xena answered me, but she still looked troubled.
I'm sorry for being so clumsy and causing problems. Am I too much of a bother? Docs? Docs, you trying to talk? You're not saying anything.
Sorry, I had to do something quickly.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
It's done, so I can resume.
Yeah.
Where were we?
Am I too much of a bother?
Asked her.
I asked honestly.
Oh, okay. I asked honestly. I was about to release a torrent of questions to make some sense of who I was and where I lived, and I needed to make sure that I didn't get someone who was annoyed with me. If she was, I could shorten it to one single request to show me the way home after gathering. Even someone who didn't like me should be willing to do that. But that wasn't the case.
Oh no, you're not bothering me.
She smiled back.
Actually, when I saw these two running to me and arguing over each other about blood and you falling, I thought they were bothering you and went wrong.
Oh, they were nice and helpful.
I responded quickly. I didn't want to cause any problems for the boys. Why did she expect that someone was bothering me?
Do people usually pick on me?
I really hope that I wasn't some kind of target for bullying or something.
Not really, I think.
That sounded both relieving and worrisome at the same time.
But you're kind of a loner. You said more words to me right now than during the whole week. It's weird.
She pondered with her eyes on me. Seriously? I said like 5 sentences to her. That's a week's worth of interaction.
Yeah, I don't remember anything. I don't remember how I normally act. So you can probably expect plenty weird from me.
I said regretfully. That should probably cover all my bases. Nobody would point me out as imposter if I had an ordinary reason for it. Bloody rock for the win, though I couldn't show it on my face. I asked her a few more questions to make some sense of previous me, but not much could be said when I hadn't talked to anyone. At least I learned that we were neighbors, which meant that I could just follow her after gathering and get right to my home. I also got a feeling that, because I was a loner, other kids didn't think too highly of me. That's why Xena acted more protective on my behalf. I mentally thanked her for that. So, I didn't actually have any friends, and I didn't have to explain the change in my personality to anyone. That was one obstacle gone, but it was still pretty sad. I suggested we go back to gathering, and I asked Xena if I could follow her to learn more about plants, fruits, nuts, and most importantly, which were poisonous. I was adamant about learning this stuff quickly because I really didn't have anything else going for me. As we walked around the woods, I was still desperately trying to think of some technology or product I could actually make as a resourceless child. I would be more optimistic if I could think of at least one thing to sell, since with money, I could probably brute force technologies that I just had a vague understanding of. It definitely didn't help that my mind was constantly dragged to the ideas that I knew would be successful in this world, because I obviously wanted to avoid anything mine would introduce, for obvious reasons. No food recipes, nothing that touches paper, ink, or printing, and no fashion accessories. That should put me on the safe side. In the end, I didn't think of anything. It felt frustrating because it was as if I was constantly on the verge of something. My brain screamed at me that there should be thousands of things I could introduce. Honestly, I just needed one person from the modern world to point out something for me. Then I'd be embarrassed that I hadn't recalled such an obvious thing. I would laugh, and everything would be fine. Sadly, reality wouldn't be that easy. But hey, I didn't pick anything poisonous during my gathering, so that was a win. Though, I did only focus on 4 easily recognizable plants and ignored everything else.
You look pretty gloomy.
Xena noticed as we walked back to the city.
I'm just focusing on remembering, but still nothing.
I answered, not entirely lying.
Don't fret it. You can sleep on it, and you'll certainly be better in the morning.
Maybe.
I forced a slight smile. I wanted to look cheerful so she wouldn't have to worry, even though on the inside, I was jumping between planning, panicking, and complaining. After a while, we were closing in on the gate. I mentally imagined an illustration of the city's map, with this being the southern gate. For some reason, a doubt crept in on me. This whole time, I was acting as if it was a matter of fact that I knew where it was. What was it?
Do you know what the city's called?
I asked suddenly.
The city's name... I never actually asked about it.
Xena stroked her chin. It would have been pretty funny if I had spent the whole day thinking about how not to do all of my inventions, only to find out that I was in a different duchy that had a similarly looking girl named Tuli.
But I heard that the lord of the city is called Ehrenfest.
Never mind. I came through the gate and immediately felt a sense of familiarity. And the stench. It was horrible. It was one thing to read about it and mentally to make fun of Noble's kind of stomach it. But as it got even sweet in taste a few times, it pushed me on the brink of vomiting. Somehow I endured. And we continued towards my home.
Allie? Ally?
Yeah.
You want to go next,
We
or
went-
do you want to skip?
No, I'll do it.
Alright.
We went through a few narrow streets until we reached a small area with a well. I was desperately trying to put up that path in my mental image of the map, which was still in the form of a simplistic black and white illustration. This wasn't mine's neighborhood, but we weren't too far away. At least, I thought so. Tina opened the door, and I followed her inside and up the stairs until we reached my door.
Is this familiar?
She asked me. I wasn't expecting any familiarity since I had never lived there, so I had to fake my disappointment as I shook my head. She then knocked on the door. After a while, a young woman opened it up. She had golden hair, bright green eyes, and a slightly confused look on her face. She looked too young to be a mother, but that was probably because of what I was used to. While I was staring at her, Xena was explaining my circumstances. Honestly, I was glad that I had come across someone so reliable. Without her, I would still have been stumbling around the forest or crying near the gate, not knowing where to go. My mother was smiling slightly, but her expressions showed clear confusion. I had a feeling she was just nodding along and would ask me again after Xena left.
And when we came here,
She finished, turning to me.
I'm going home too. See you tomorrow.
She smiled and went down the stairs since she lived below us. I entered my flat, and my mother closed the door.
You shouldn't trouble our neighbors so much.
She chastised me a little while I was looking around the room. I had already been expecting nothing extra, so I wouldn't have to be disappointed. Internally, it still hurt. Before I got here, I had spent the majority of my time behind the computer, where the fun stuff was, or with my friends who weren't here. Instead, I saw a wooden table with a bottle, behind it, a green-haired man, probably my father, sat with a clouded expression. Dirt on the floor was pretty conspicuous. Just like with the stink outside, it was one thing to read about it and a completely different thing to live in it. For the rest of my life? As my father stood up, I thought about all the people I would never meet again. I'd been fine during the day when my mind was occupied with an initial goal, finding my home. But now, as I was standing here, depressive thoughts were seeping through. Suddenly, a strong force crashed into my head, and I fell to the ground. It was so instant that I felt the pain from hitting the floor before registering the pain of being hit. I lay there in complete shock.
Stop causing trouble.
The man growled. He sounded drunk. I was so unprepared that I couldn't do a single thing. My body was completely paralyzed. As I stared at him with widened eyes, he pulled me up and slapped my face.
Listen when I talk to you.
He raised his voice. After the initial hit that felt like it had split my head open, being slapped wasn't as bad. So it caused my mother to intervene.
Don't slap her in the face. How will she get married if you damage it?
She's
She
useless.
protested.
She's useless anyways. She ain't getting married.
He grumbled back, but then released me and returned to the table. I fell into a sitting position because I still felt dizzy after the initial hit. It took me a few minutes before the shock subsided. What the hell is this? I mean, I didn't expect much, but a raging, violent drunk for a father? Is this normal? The place where he hit me was swelling, and even my cheek was burning from the slap. I knew that children before baptism weren't considered people here, but still, this couldn't be something normal. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that probably nobody would even bat an eye if I said I was beaten.
Mila, where's the wood?
My mother asked me from the other side of the room.
You were supposed to gather wood.
She was holding the basket of fruits I had gathered in the forest. I froze. Immense pressure was building in my chest. Then I heard the screeching of a chair. The sound terrified me. Strong steps were closing in on me as my heart raced. I closed my eyes. The last few seconds before the impact were the worst. And then came the kick. I was once again lying on the ground.
Useless.
I wonder if, wait, guys, I wonder if this part of the immense pressure is that foreshadowing for her mana, or because this is like an extremely emotional moment here.
I think
Maybe.
yes.
Maybe.
But I just
Yeah, I mean, immense pressure.
think it's anxiety.
Yeah. Unpause.
I heard above me. The second kick. I heard above me. The second kick was lighter, or maybe I started getting accustomed to it. I was sent to bed without dinner. That was fine by me. I wanted to be in a different room from them, even though they would eventually come there too. While lying in bed, my number one priority was to calm down. I was breathing slowly, in and out. All I needed was some semblance of control. I was an adult. I could get through this. Even though I was in the body of a small child that couldn't defend itself at all, which was frankly terrifying. As my breath lightened, I was putting together some thoughts about my options. Outside of the wall was a no-go. Live-in apprentice was an option, but I hadn't worked anywhere yet. I didn't have any skills to work anywhere yet. Then I thought about the orphanage. But at this point, they were probably calling it since Blue Priests were leaving. and the rest would be starving in horrible conditions. I still pondered the orphanage for a while, because, at the very least, violence was forbidden there. Then I remembered how the Blue Roofs could treat young girls, and it was a hard pass for me. Until mine gets put in charge of that place, it will be a no-go, just like going outside, which meant I had to stay in this house. I massaged my forehead. Again, my only consolation was that I was an adult. It would be much scarier if I were a child who didn't know anything. The moment the last thought crossed my mind, small tears formed at the edges of my eye. I was getting pissed. No, I was furious. Is this why she's a friendless loner? I didn't consider myself a child, so I just viewed it as a drunk asshole beating me up. But the moment I thought about it from the perspective of the crowd who were here before me, it felt heartbreaking. When I imagined her, I wanted to cry, and I wanted to punch something myself. As I pondered my plans for the next day and the next life, both my parents also came to bed. I was lying almost on the edge, so I didn't have to move. Nobody said anything. I was glad I didn't have to interact with them. At that point, I was full of mixed emotions. I was mad at the drunk ass jerk near me, and I was sorry for the girl I would never meet.
Alright, for Choco? Yeah. Also, yeah, Wheels was definitely the right pick for the mom. I felt chastised when she introduced.
Yeah.
I agree. I was unsure about
I felt
that.
like I genuinely felt a bit bad. Like I felt like my mom was like, oh, Pringles, why are
You kind of have a mom vibes.
Yeah, you do have them. Is there like a school you guys all go to just to have that tone of voice, the mom tone?
I think you just learn it. I remember when I had my first and they like left me alone with her in the room after she was born, and I like my husband and I looked at each other and we were like, we're parents, and we like nervous giggled and we were like, what are we supposed to do? Like, why are they leaving us alone with this thing? Because I mean, I was only 21, so
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, that's
I wish it came with a manual or a
Will
school.
not be. Choco, do you want to do narration?
What do you think about
I have people in the background, so
the
unfortunately I
sequence?
can't right now. It's
Okay,
kind of
you
like
should
doomed it.
the hummingbirds first and then the flowers or butter? Yeah, maybe we should put the number one for.
Alright, then Wheels. You want to do
Oh, I also wrote like an alternate description for the Filipino. Yeah.
Okay.
Hummingbird number 19 here. Do you want to move it? Maybe at least like. No, we'll put it on the first one. Put the flowers.
Should I wait?
We have the ceramics and
Wait.
the end.
Ichigo, are
We have
you
the
reading
cedar.
the
Something-
narrating right now?
We have that painting.
I think she's talking to someone.
Okay.
Oh,
Can you
okay,
actually
could you
it's
mute
hard for me
yourself?
without the. Is there what is
It's not me.
a
It's
mouth that goes
Ichi.
with this?
Ichigo Fructose.
Ichi, are you narrating? Because I don't really hear
they're
you
talking
very
to someone else.
good.
Alright, Wheels,
Like
do you
if,
want to go next?
if you're talking to someone, could we mute?
I muted her, but I don't know if it will let her unmute herself. Because now it's got a different symbol.
Oh, yeah, I don't have that in my end.
If you push and hold on the tile, it pops it up.
Oh yeah, that makes me.
Yeah, that's a mute from your end. So
Yeah.
you just have to remember to unmute
Yeah,
her.
everyone will still hear them.
Wheels, do you
They
want to
could just mute themselves.
Yeah, I can.
Alright.
Right. When I woke up, I was feeling rather refreshed. My head still hurt, just like my rib cage after the kick, but to be honest, this was the first time I had gone to sleep as the sun went down instead of being on the internet. Or maybe it was my child's body. Either way, I stood up and went to the kitchen, despite a little pain. My mother got up as well and prepared leftovers from dinner for breakfast. I sighed internally. I knew the drill from the story. I also had to get accustomed to the food. It wasn't like I could expect anything well preserved without a fridge. I shook my head. I just have to lower my standards really fast and deal with it. I ate it quickly and then moved on to washing some plates. Meanwhile, my father rolled over in the bed.
I think that's yeah. I think the next one is mom again.
The dad definitely does not say
Mm.
sweetie.
Yeah.
No, it's
Immune temporarily
no,
still
it's
remember.
the dad.
This
It's
is
actually
Yeah,
the
it's
dad.
dad.
with a
It's the
hangover.
dad, but
Wait,
he's
oh, what the heck? Okay. Oh, okay.
he's
Okay.
just not drunk.
Well,
He's
I
just
guess
not
he's not
drunk
drunk right
anymore.
now. All right. Also, I temporarily muted Ichi just until
Okay.
their turns. They probably can't get on Discord right now.
All right. I'll say my line. Mila, sweetie, bring me some water. My head hurts.
I clenched my teeth. It took some effort, but I ultimately prevailed and forced back a cheerful tone.
Sure.
I had used all of our remaining water to wash the dishes, so I took a bucket and ran down to the well. I was still mad, but I couldn't rock the boat while I had no place to go. The well and its surroundings were empty, so I drew water as quickly as I could, and then I sped up the stairs, almost losing my breath. Father took the water without any complaining, so maybe he was a jerk only when drunk. Then he ate breakfast and went to work. I washed the rest of the plates and went to draw more water. I was planning on some fast cleaning to give our home a better feel. Since I still couldn't think of any potential product that would secure me some initial funding, the least I could do was make some small improvements around myself. As I was cleaning, I struck up a conversation with my mother. She didn't have to go to her workplace too early since she worked as a waitress. I also learned that my father worked in construction. If I didn't figure anything out, those would be the most probable employment paths for me. And I was a girl, so I didn't have that much strength for construction. That left me with being a waitress, which immediately reminded me of a story from Ella's perspective about why she didn't want to be in that line of work. Ugh, again, hard pass. I definitely won't be following my parents. Someone knocked on our door, and as I was putting the finishing touches on my cleaning operation, when I opened it, I saw Xena.
Hi, do you remember yet?
She started cheerfully. She really was full of optimism. It was actually nice that she cared that much.
Sure, I remember yesterday.
I replied jokingly.
Oh, don't worry. It will be fine. Do you feel like going to the forest?
I definitely felt like going to the forest. I wanted to be out of this house for as long as possible. As far as I was concerned, the later I came back, the better. I smiled, grabbed my basket, and ran outside. "Don't forget the wood," my mother yelled back at me. We met more children at the gate. Xena greeted them, so I immediately followed suit with a cheerful "hello," which earned me a few confused stares. When she says just little one-word things like that, should I let you do it, Pringles?
It'll be too confusing. Like, you know.
Okay. I figured it would be in stark contrast with the girl they knew. I wasn't actually so sociable that I would start chit-chatting with people I didn't know, but I was pushing myself to do that anyway. Technically, they did know me, so I wasn't a complete stranger talking to them. My main motivation was simply that I really didn't want to bother Xena. No matter how I looked at it, I was burdening a 6-year-old girl who just felt responsible for me. She certainly had her own friends, and I was just her neighbor. Me constantly following her to learn about everything was bound to be tiresome for her. And it kind of worked. It must have sounded pretty interesting when I talked about how I lost my memories, since I received a barrage of questions afterwards. Everyone wanted to give me their name, although that part backfired on me. They were all saying their names all at once, so I didn't actually remember anyone. I'll have to ask Xena later, and all that after I just said that I wouldn't be bothering her too much. I spent the day gathering wood and learning more about the plants in the forest. At this point, I made it my objective to learn everything I could about what I could find there, because I felt really self-conscious about lacking any useful skills. On the other hand, it felt nice to be able to talk to the people around me. The children wanted to show off by pointing out all the interesting facts they knew about the area, They effectively treated me as a newcomer, which was great, since I literally was one. And when I finally got home, I didn't get beaten, which, to me, made this a good day. Although my father was still drunk. From there on, I started my routine. I went to the forest every day for 3 weeks. I kept our household clean, but that was about the only thing that changed there. I didn't really experiment with food. I tried once, but since fruits and vegetables didn't behave the same way in my previous world, I made a mistake and got beaten for playing with the food. Because of that, I just stuck with copying whatever my mother did. The threat of beatings dissuaded me from making any improvements around the household. It wasn't even that often, only 4 or 5 times. I didn't really keep count, since I mostly just wanted to forget about it as soon as possible. But the fact that he was drunk almost every single evening, I realized that often I went into a panic just from hearing him raise his voice, and I was definitely jumpy every time I heard the chair move. Aside from that, I was genuinely perplexed. Where the hell is our family getting the money for so much booze? Seriously, with all that money wasted on alcohol, I could literally start a business. Or maybe alcohol here was just really cheap. I hazily remembered that a middle copper could buy you 1 beer, or maybe 2 beers. When I read the story a second time, I wrote down the prices of everything mentioned since I was really disoriented about things being 5 coppers this, or 3 silvers that, or the rare, oh wow, gold mixed in. I asked my mother about the price since she was a waitress, and she replied that the price depended on how much you liked that particular waitress who brought it to you. That didn't actually help me get a clearer picture. Not that it mattered, since my father mostly stuck with a bottle of something much stronger than beer. All in all, I mostly spent my time outside. During the second week, I added stalking to my forest visits. Or could it really be called stalking if I followed people specifically so I could avoid them better? I mostly decided that I didn't want to interfere with mine's progress. I could technically just come to her and say stuff like, hey, contact Venno through Otto. You'll get the backing to produce paper that way. Or, hey, that illness of yours is just mana. Frida has some magic tools that can help with that. But I feared that if she actually followed through on that, there was a possibility that she could annoy or creep out the other party by acting with future knowledge in mind, which could literally kill her. And by not stalking, I noticed that Thule didn't go to the forest every day, which meant she was already past her baptism and had a part-time job. And by further not stalking her to her home, I found where her family lived. And by repeatedly not stalking in further days, I saw mine and Let's going to the forest without any paper-making equipment. Lastly, when I asked Xena when the summer baptism was, she responded, literally the day before. I lost my memories. Yeah, I wasn't sure about that part.
That are still in the dialogue.
Sorry.
No, it's fine, yeah.
No,
I think
it's okay. I paused because I was expecting it, and I was like, wait a second, this still sounds like it's in her head.
Yeah, because it's like she's just quoting what Xena said. And like I said, I think it'll just get too confusing trying to, like, time it. Alright, continue.
Sorry.
So by sophisticated deducing, I knew that I was just a couple weeks after Thule's baptism, or in other words, pretty close to the day mine and Lutz got in contact with Benno and started going to the forest with paper-making equipment, which meant, even if I told her, there wouldn't be that much change on that front. Within the 3rd week, I tried to find various locations in the city mentioned in the story, all while still going to the forest. I was walking a lot. Places like the Gilberta Company or the Guildmaster's house were pretty easy to find. All I had to do was follow the street from the south gate all the way up north to the temple, but some of them were pretty impossible to locate since there was never a specific description of how people in the story got there. After 3 weeks of learning and walking, mostly walking, I thought I had a pretty good grasp on things. I still had a little anxiety about not knowing what to do with life, but at least I had more experience with my surroundings and I was keeping up my routine. With this state of mind, I decided to try making Rensham. I obviously wouldn't sell nor spread it, but there was certainly no harm in using it just for myself. It would definitely be more comfortable with better kept hair, so I gathered a bunch of Rio fruits. Well, not really me. I had had quite a struggle identifying them since I didn't even know their names. I remembered Meryl's from the story, but I was generally bad with names. Thankfully, Xena was there, and she was able to identify them from my something like Meryl's rant. With her help, I brought home wood and a few Rios in my basket, and then a lot more Rios hidden in a bag. I speedily entered the storeroom and hid the bag behind the wood. I gave my mother the few visible Rios from the basket, and then I went to eat dinner. The next day was time for experiments. Xena came after Father went to work. I had already told her that I would be staying home, but I still asked her to pretend as if we were going to the forest. I stayed in the neighborhood until I saw Mother leaving, and then I went back home. Mine did her version on the first try, because she had just repeated the process she had learned in her previous life. Meanwhile, I had zero confidence in something I had never done. For that reason, I was bringing up a lot of water from the well and heating it. I used multiple strings to divide my hair into strands so I could do multiple test runs with me as a guinea pig. Oil, herbs, and salt sounded pretty simple, but I didn't know the right ratios. In the end, I was pretty content with the fourth version. I undid my 6 pigtail hairstyle and cleaned my whole head. Then I got rid of the evidence, or speaking normally, I cleaned the room. It took less time than I expected, so I could still run to the forest.
Wow, your hair really got pretty.
Xena noticed instantly. She circled around me while looking.
Was that what you were doing at home?
Her eyes were almost sparkling. Was it really such a big change?
Squinting a little.
I tried to brush it off. I think I overdid it. That was not good. I had been so focused on feeling less itchy as a reward for myself that I had completely forgotten about the visual effect. So as I walked among the trees, I occasionally smeared a little dirt on my hair, then I splashed my head in the river, hoping it wouldn't look too weird.
Next chapter. Fairy?
Yeah.
Fairy.
Chapter 5. Thinking about the job. The next day came. I was sitting in the shade of the tree. I was sitting in the shade of a tree, leaning against it, and just lazing around a little. In the morning, I had really pushed myself with gathering to get ahead. But as the sun climbed high into the sky, it got too hot to work. That granted me some time to think. I had some vague notion of how I wanted to play this, but until now, I had mostly been gathering information. When I visited various locations around the city, I also specifically looked at the people of interest, what the people of interest looked like. Now I was almost confident that I could recognize most of them at first glance. My initial plan could be pretty much summed up as, hey, I'm from the modern world. I can introduce some new products, get rich, and live a comfortable life. But I got nothing. Every time I thought about it, I got more ashamed of myself. So after a while, I kind of stopped thinking about it. My hope was that maybe, as life went on, I could stumble into some situation that would trigger a relevant memory or something, but I couldn't rely on that. At some point, I was so desperate that I was literally pondering ideas I saw in TV shows, like wrapping a copper wire around a metal cylinder and putting it out during a storm. They had produced a magnet like that, but I was aware that shows were made for dramatic effects, and scripts often didn't have time to include things not working out. And I was pretty sure that in a modern world, lightning wasn't how we generally made magnets. So even if I thought it could work, I wasn't certain. On the other hand, I knew where to find copper. On the other hand, it was literally used as money. If the project ended with Lightning destroying everything, it would be a pretty big blow to my wallet, especially since I didn't have a single small copper on me. If I had enough capital to throw at these silly ideas, one might work. But since I didn't, I just shelved them for now. When I thought about it, a part of me probably wanted to make Rensham the day before to prove that I could actually make something, even though I couldn't use it as it would bring unwanted attention. Well, the Gilberto company will eventually mass produce it, and then I won't stand out for using it. Second issue was mine. For now, I was running on avoid everything that could screw things up in the story. If everything went smoothly or disastrously, she could enter the temple in less than a year. I was pretty sure about that part. Alternatives would be slave contracts or her dying, so I was confident entering the temple was for the best. The nobles are pretty segregated from the commoners, so I was confident that me just living in the lower city shouldn't impact the timeline on their side. That's why my predictions should stay pretty accurate 4 years from now. I wish to use it for something good. I still fear screwing up since I didn't know anything about the ending of part 4 and beyond. But I nonetheless was pondering 2 points of divergence. The first was the attack at the end of part 2, when mine was forced into an adoption 2 years sooner, a time which she should have spent with her family. But I thought about all the political messes, threats from nobles, and people she managed to save with her new authority. I was pretty conflicted on that one. The attack was right after. No, the second was right after the attack. She and her family would be unhappy but safe, and in that situation, I could just warn her about the first ingredient gathering in autumn. If that one was a success, she would have her healing bath after acquiring her summer ingredient the next year, which would make her miss the later attack that was going to put her in a 2-year coma. As far as I was concerned, there weren't any obvious downsides, so it became my focus. Though, by that point, she would be guarded by the nobles. Maybe it would be beneficial for me to enter the temple as a Grey Shard Maiden a month or 2 before the attack. If I established contact before, it could, for it and her subsequent adoption, it would be easier to get her to talk about those things. That almost sounded like a plan. The question was, how do I get to that point? I had my own baptism next spring, so I actually had to start thinking about a job. And I would definitely not want to become a Grey Shard Maiden before mine took over the orphanage. If she'll leave for the temple. There was actually a part-time job at the gates, or more like it would be there in the future. Mine was planning to help Otto after she decided to quit being a merchant. But soon she would abruptly become a Blue Shrine Maiden instead. So that would be an opportunity for me. I mean, I know math. I constantly felt inadequate since I didn't have any useful skills. But I didn't go through the educational. But I did go through the educational system. It was something I might do pretty well. Since mine had to change her occupation because of her mana, it's not like I would be taking anything from her, I think. I was pondering that last thought. It sounded important.
Hey, are you okay?
I looked up and Sienna was watching me with worry in her eyes.
Me? Sure. Why wouldn't I be?
Her question made me a little confused.
You have the same expression as when you lost your memories.
Nah, I was just thinking about stuff.
Apparently, when I sat leaning against the tree with a thinking expression, it made her a little anxious. Sorry about that. Well, at least there's no bloody rock near me. More importantly.
Xena, could you please show me where I can find some cow fruit? I want to test something. Faerun? Do you wanna narrate a chapter?
Me?
Yeah, you wanna narrate?
Yeah.
Give me a second.
Chapter 6.
6. Cow fruit test.
One moment.
No problem.
So chapter 6, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I definitely wanted to test if I had any mana. Making any plans without knowing this aspect could seriously derail everything, so I quickly followed Zina as she went to show me.
You know, they wouldn't be much fun where aren't full of water yet.
She was obviously thinking about their regular function, to be thrown for fun.
Are you planning something for the Star Festival?
She asked.
Nothing yet. I just want to know what they look like.
Ah, well, they look like this one.
Zina pointed at one on the ground. I bent down and touched it. Immediately, the heat inside me started moving, so I withdrew my hand just as fast.
What happened?
Zina asked worriedly. I probably looked like someone who had just touched a hot stove. Definitely not the reaction she would expect from me touching nature's water balloon. I really wish I was better at coming up with random excuses on short notice.
Nothing. I was startled by a bug.
Zina gave me a weird look, so I tried to brush it off with a change of topic.
So they'll get bigger and we'll be throwing them, right?
She rolled her eyes at the deflection, but still replied happily.
Yeah, that sounds really great fun. Will you go too?
Yeah, I want to try it.
I paused for a moment.
I didn't go previously?
No, you said you didn't like people throwing stuff at you.
I was pretty sure I knew what caused such an attitude, but I would rather not think about it. I pushed away those thoughts about a certain someone.
Well, this year I'll certainly come.
I declared firmly with a smile. Zina looked relieved by my answer.
Great, I'm glad.
After a while, we returned to our gathering. I mostly just stumbled around as I was thinking. I hadn't really thought that I had mana because, well, I was healthy and alive. Mine was on the verge of that at the age of 5, and she was said to have less mana than a lay noble. Dirk was said to be equivalent to a stronger mad noble, and his symptoms appeared when he was a baby. My mana had to be quite low in comparison. At least I didn't feel sick or anything. But then again, Benno's first lover died at a pretty young age from it, so the threat of death was real. It could still happen eventually. But knowing that it was mana and not some incurable disease made it pretty easy to not be afraid. Firstly, I knew about Taos. Secondly, if I didn't screw up, 2 years down the line, mine would become the High Bishop. That would make the temple a much less scary place where I could offer my mana. And thirdly, I could always just compress it. Heck, I literally knew super duper secret 4-step mana compression method. Since I had so little, even if I started having problems, I could stall for a very long time. Once the tower had caused the heat to move, it made me receptive to it. It was like when we see our nose for our whole life, but only when someone tells us that our nose is always in our field of vision, we can actually see it whenever we focus on it. So I was focusing on it. I tried a little compression and tried moving it in my body. Overall, it was fun, but it would become a nuisance without access to magic tools. My first thoughts about the cool stuff magic could do were slowly replaced by anxiety about me not getting access to it, which made me feel boxed in. And those thoughts were almost instantly replaced by ones about all the possible nobles hunting for new devouring mana batteries for enslavement, and my mood plummeted completely. My only positive thoughts was that I was so low that I could actually have these radical mood swings without collapsing like a certain someone I had read about. Eventually, the time of the festival came and I joined Zina and her friends. We patrolled the streets of the city with a bunch of other kids and mercilessly attacked everyone we considered not sufficiently wet. Since I hadn't participated in previous ones, I primitively compressed to make my body as light on mana as possible. This way, I was confident I wouldn't cause an accidental thrombo transformation. We had begun with attacking new couples at the temple, and then we fought our way through the whole city. I didn't even know from where exactly we managed to get more fruits, since I was pretty sure we threw away more than we gathered. As evening got closer, I was exhausted, I was totally drenched, and it was the most fun I had since I got to this world.
Alright. I'm not. Ichigo, are you participating in this? Or are you still talking to someone?
Ichi?
They said in the general chat that they just wanted to watch.
Alright, got it.
They seem to be trying to speak, but they're away.
I have server mute as a mod. That's what I had done because they didn't seem to be on their phone at the time.
You gotta stop.
Yeah, I think they're still talking to someone. Risa?
Okay, so Chapter 7 Shumil Hunt. A few days later, I joined a group of older kids in their hunt for Shumils. If I couldn't get ahead with my modern knowledge, I at least shouldn't stay behind on regular stuff. I needed to learn everything I could. The children were actually pretty organized, and they put me on the team that would chase Shumils towards the net. We wandered quite a lot from our usual gathering spot, and it was making me a little nervous. The forest around us was slowly changing its feel. Something was off. I couldn't really describe it, but no one around me mentioned anything. So maybe it was just me. Suddenly, a taller boy with red hair who was ahead of our group signaled to us. It looked like he spotted our prey. There was a small clearing around 200 meters from us. He must have had really good eyesight, because I saw the clearing, but not the Shumils. We slowly circled around it while the others waited there. It took us ages to get in position, since we were being really slow, but it was worth it. When we reached our destination, there was roughly a dozen meters between the clearing and us. And now, even I could see the group of Shumers in there. Some were already on their back feet and looking in our direction. They probably noticed that there was something here and were on guard. The rest of them ignored us for now, but I could feel some tension around me. We formed a curved line, and then we started running and screaming. All the Shumers ran in the opposite direction, right in our traps. We got a lot of them, so I felt quite accomplished, man, and out of breath.
Damn it!
I burst out. My Shumer disintegrated, and I was left holding a tiny face stone. In all fairness, I was just faking the disappointment. This was my first time, and I didn't have it in me yet to do the butchering. Like, I could watch someone else do it, but it was uncomfortable. And it would definitely be more uncomfortable if I had to do it myself. So I just looked away and stabbed it fast.
I think this is Bert.
Who is
Do we have
Yeah.
the...
Do Bert
No one is
is...
Bert.
Did we? I feel like did we end up assigning a Bert? I feel like Bert was the one that we were.
Yeah, you assigned
I'll do
Bert to
Bert.
me,
I'll do
and
Bert. Don't worry.
I chose.
Okay, sure.
Don't worry. We cut a logogram. We can have
Sure,
another.
Allies Bert.
The boy who led us gave me a friendly smile. Damn it, I said internally as I took another shumel. I made a small cut, but the shumel recoiled. I panicked, I stabbed it again. They even offered me a third one, but I refused. I declared that it would be unfair to others if my clumsiness took away their share. Thankfully, a few other kids also messed up, so we eventually didn't have any spare ones. And since I didn't have to do the butchering, I at least forced myself to watch how it's done properly. It was still uncomfortable, but I had to get used to it. Only a few of us ended up with face stones, but everyone except me had at least one shumel worth of meat and pelt, so they prioritized that. As the only one who would go to the shop that was buying magic crystals that day. As we walked back, I played with the first face stone I got. I tried to push mana into it, then pulled it back, all while thinking about their use. I knew nobles used face stones to create magic tools, but that was the end of my knowledge. The story had never specifically said how. Or at least I didn't remember. I poured my mana into the face stone.
Russian!
Nothing happened. The girl who was walking nearby gave me a confused look. I smiled faintly and turned away. Well, it was worth a try. Obviously, I wouldn't be this easy. I mean, lay nobles were literally letting their children play Battle Royale for life-saving magic tools. It would be quite silly if it was so easy as just catch a small creature like this. And quite sad. The feeling I had was pretty familiar by now. I had all this surface level knowledge about magic in the story, but I didn't actually know how to make it. This is my knowledge of modern technology all over again. Heck, give me a magic ring, and I can at least start a cleaning business. After I returned to the city, I headed right to the market. There, I circled around a stand with a single book on display. That one should have some information on magic. Whether it would have something useful to it, I had no clue. My only insight was that commoners shouldn't have access to this. I was just paraphrasing in my head since I couldn't remember precise words anymore. The problem was, if I went to ask the shop owner to let me read it, he would see a young girl asking for a book, get flashbacks of mine, and throw me out. Not to mention, I didn't know how to read yet. That obstacle might be a bit bigger of a challenge. I didn't know numbers since I was helping my mother shop for groceries, but reading, that's on a completely different level. And if that book was written in some noble speech with euphemisms, I would have a hard time even if I did know my letters. I gave up on the spot and went to sell my second face stone to the store that bought magic stones. I now had a glorious middle copper in my hand. At least it was better than none. I kept my first face stone so I could play with it. I pushed and pulled and tried to dye it, and I got seriously sick and had to stay in bed the next day.
Alright, Manvi can't.
I can do it.
Oh, you do? Okay, great, awesome.
still have 2%.
Wow.
If I Chapter 8: The Start of Papermaking. I spent most of my time in the forest, with occasional trips to check things out in the city. This way, I had pretty much mastered my ability to spend as little time at home as possible. Sometimes I managed to speedrun my evening return, dinner, and chores so that I was lying in bed before my father even had a chance to insult me. Even when I wasn't sleepy, I just pretended I was asleep, which mostly worked. Am I audible? Hello?
We do hear you pretty well.
My mornings were the busiest since I was trying to follow up on people, more specifically on mine. Everyone else was easy. They had their jobs, duties, and routines, so just following them for a week was enough to predict their schedules accurately. Mine, on the other hand, was an erratic mess. I literally knew the future, and I still couldn't predict her schedule whenever she randomly fell ill or did things at home. That's why I switched to tracking Lutz instead. Every morning, I visited Mine's neighborhood and loitered around Gate for a long time. Finally, on one nice sunny day, I saw both Mine and Lutz carrying paper making tools through the gate. A weight was lifted from my shoulders. Though things were progressing as they should have, it was weird to feel so elated when I had done literally nothing. But the fact that I didn't screw up anything just felt nice. I lived in the vicinity for almost a whole season, and I was certainly acting differently than the previous Mila. And even then, I wasn't I wasn't seeing any drastic butterfly effect. It made me feel more sure about my plan. I mingled among the children who were asking them questions and looking at their luggage. The children the children acted quite pushy, but then backed off when backed upon back. Sorry, the children acted quite pushy, but then backed off upon hearing it was work related. I followed for a while, but soon I sped ahead. I could I could spend my time more productively than just walking really slowly and peeping at them. Even then, I reg- Even then, I regularly revisited the edge of the gathering spot to look out for them. So I didn't do much gathering anyway. When they finally arrived, they put their things near the river and started preparing. That brought me a lot more peace, and I could finally focus on gathering only to be interrupted by a whistle. It threw me into confusion until I remembered the trombone. I ran to the spot, but it looked like enough children were already cutting it down. That was fine, but I was internally face palming. I was checking so obsessively when nothing was happening, but I completely forgot when something actually was happening. I remembered the trombone, but my memory was jumbled enough that I thought it would happen later. I really wished I could write this stuff down. Please hurry with that whole paper making in the. During the next few days, I occasionally checked on their progress, but but if my bad memory was right, nothing more exciting should happen. That that being said, I did find a trio of young boys on the river's bank looking at black bark. The sight made me panic. I was almost sure that I hadn't read anything about lost bark during their first papermaking. I shouted with hands on my hips. The boys looked at me with startled expressions. I definitely must have looked angry. That realization made me recall the atmosphere at my home, and I immediately felt guilty for shouting at them.
I don't think we actually really picked signed rules for these guys. Do Faye and Cynthia want to reprise their roles as miscellaneous people?
Can I get a boy?
Yeah,
If it's not asking for too much.
Miscellaneous boy.
Which one is this?
Just miscellaneous boys who are tasting the paper.
Just some random boys.
The first line.
Can I take one?
Yeah, sure. Wait, who?
Hey, put it back.
Can I take one?
Sure.
That was actually funny. You get credit for that one.
It said we were just looking.
Who said their line?
I'm saying so. It's at we were just looking.
Continue.
Mandy?
You're the narrator.
Acha, sorry. Stamped one of the boys.
It's okay. You don't have to worry.
I changed into a calmer tone.
But you really shouldn't be touching other people's things without permission. They need it for work.
Saying it was for work should be enough for them to back off. But the boy who was holding it wasn't convinced.
But it's just a bark.
Right, it had been different when Lutz had said it was for work when they were carrying actual equipment. It was harder to say the same about something that looked like a waste product.
Yes, but they're obviously using it for something. You wouldn't take one leg from a table and say that it's just a piece of wood, right?
I hope that analogy got through. For me, a piece of wood was on par with a piece of bark. It wasn't a complex electronic device or anything. But they might see it in a different light, that as wood was much more prevalent in their everyday lives.
I may have gotten a little loud, but that's because I'm worried. What if this is used as some kind of ingredient, and by pulling it from the water prematurely, it will go bad? Then they'll fail their task. And do you want that?
They all shook their heads. Obviously, I knew it would be fine if they just put it back, but I wanted to scare them a little so they would avoid doing it again. They speedily put the bark back in its place and then ran away. That encounter once again introduced a whole bunch of anxiety in me. If I hadn't shouted at them, would they have just put it back after their curiosity was satisfied? Or was I already screwing up the timeline as I regularly bumped into people? And the 20 steps down the line outcomes years were changing? I really wanted to be a positive influence. To look back sometime in the future and think, yes, I made things better. But I wasn't even confident that I could manage to keep things the same. As a result, I kept an eye on the whole process and probably wasted a large chunk of my time.
All right. Anyone else after Mandy want to go, or should we restart? Or I guess we'll go to Cindy next. PCJ?
PCJ?
Ultimo, any of you narrate? If not, then we'll go to Cindy.
All right, I'll go then.
All right, Cindy.
Eventually, the day of autumn baptism had almost arrived. Xena would become a citizen that day and join the workforce. She wanted to be a seamstress just like Tuli, but was joining a different workshop. This was actually convenient since I wanted to give her all the advice on presenting herself I could remember from the story. Yep, helping someone without screwing up something else. Feels good.
You look pretty pleased.
Xena noticed me smiling as I was thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm in the mood. Hey, thinking, do you want me to do something special with your hair on the day of the baptism?
You mean like that one time when you prettied yours?
I could see the spark of interest in her eyes.
Exactly.
The deal with the Rincham at the Gilberta company should be pretty much locked, and I wasn't doing something too extravagant, like wearing a hairpin that could easily be noticed in a large crowd. I thought it'd be fine if I just made it happier.
Will it take us much time?
She was probably less enthusiastic about spending half a day on it like I did.
No, it took me so much time because I was testing it. It'll be pretty fast now.
Great! I liked the way your hair looked.
She smiled, and we agreed that I would come to her home early in the morning before the ceremony. On the actual day, I silently went to the storeroom where I hid my things. They were placed behind the last wood section. I would strongly prefer to have my own room that I could lock, but this was the next best thing. I managed to take some of my pirated version of Rimsham and leave home before anybody woke up. Then I walked down the stairs and knocked on Xena's door. She was already awake, so I assumed she couldn't sleep much before her big day. She had already prepared hot water, so I'd get right to it and start cleaning her hair.
I'll give you this whole bottle, but could you delay using it on your own for at least a season?
Sure, but why? Earlier you gave me all that advice from your mother about presentation to customers.
Because I'm a paranoid mess that's scared of screwing up the timeline before this product gets even more widespread.
Honest.
That's how the best lies start.
I shouldn't know about it. I just accidentally peeked in a place where they were making it. They're putting a lot of money into it, so I could get into trouble if they thought I stole their recipe.
Technically, it wasn't far from the truth.
Don't worry then. I'll save it for later. But won't today be a problem?
Pretty sure it'll be fine. It's not like there'll be random sniffer controls looking for nice smelling hair.
Xena chuckled a little.
And if you manage to keep that secret, I might even teach you the recipe. For personal use only, of course.
I guess I'll be needing Mers or Rios when that happens.
Xena said with a grin. Wow, she is good. Or maybe I'm just bad at this. I was literally pestering her about Meryl's and reels the day before I showed her my hair. Now I was pretty glad that her job wasn't being a merchant.
Oh, random person.
Hello?
Suddenly, I was greeted by two younger children standing at the edge of the room. They were probably woken up by us talking. Pringles?
Mila?
Yeah, I said, hello.
I said back. Xena then introduced her two brothers. Was it weird that I spent a whole season gathering information, but I didn't even know she had brothers? I'm definitely bad at this. Shortly after the duo, Xena's parents entered the room too. I was finished by then, and they started complimenting her on her look. She didn't even have her dress on yet. They also thanked me for good work and were generally pretty nice. I tried to soak in the atmosphere for at least those few moments. But then I went outside so I wouldn't interfere with their preparations. I knew that big occasions could be quite stressful. Some people were already standing near the well, and shortly after, more people from the neighborhood filled the space, my parents included. I mingled in the crowd and watched Xena get embarrassed by all the compliments, but she looked happy, so my mission was a success. I cheerfully followed her on her route to the temple, thinking that taking small risks wasn't so bad.
Alright. So then I guess it'll go back and I'll be narrator again. Yeah, so yeah, you're Otto. Mr. Otto? He turned his head to me as I approached him, trying to look as innocuous as possible. Hi, my name is Mila.
Oh, hello, Mila.
He was standing near the gate, politely smiling as I started my interview attempt. I was wondering, could I ask you if you needed another helper with your papers?
Hold on. What papers?
Otto waved his hand in surprise. Well, I know an apprentice soldier, and he was talking about how there's this tiny girl that's awesome because she can read and write and work with documents and all this other stuff. I said that pretty fast as Otto just stared at me. So I was wondering, if I could do the same? My mom said that I'm really good at math. I often help her count at the market.
What is it with little girls in the city and math?
He murmured to himself. What? He looked at me as if he had just been caught.
Oh, nothing.
Mine, his biggest helper, had recently finished her paper prototypes and embarked on a path to become a merchant. I was pretty sure that he was thinking about all the work that he would now be doing alone, especially since winter was less than a season away. Otto scratched his head, but he didn't seem convinced.
Are you sure about this? It's really tedious work.
I said firmly. I needed to radiate determination. If he thought I was just a kid fooling around, he would send me away. But still, he was soon losing someone who did most of his work. It should push him to risk sharing it with me.
Fine, come with me. I'll give you a simple test. If you pass, I can teach you with the apprentice soldiers.
Oh, you won't even mention that your assistant might become a merchant elsewhere, so I'm actually needed? He was keeping his cards close to his chest. We entered a room with a pile of wooden boards on a table. I sat down and he gave me one of the boards. I didn't understand the words, but at least I understood the numbers, which made me a little relieved. Can I have a slate tablet for this? Just like that girl?
Sure.
Otto agreed with prying eyes. Since I asked for a slate tablet, he looked like he expected something extraordinary. This was my final test. I gripped the slate pen in my palm instead of between my fingers. I wrote a few lines that way and then looked at him. Could you show me how to hold this pen properly? I was trying to sound worried, but internally I was pretty pleased with my acting. Otto's look of expectation disappeared into a simple smile as he showed me with another slate pen. I was thoroughly prepared for this meeting. I had read the side story where he discussed Mind's abnormality with Benno and Karina, and I would prefer if I wasn't the topic of such talk. There was still a whole bunch of future developments that had to happen at the Gilberta Company, and it would be nice if mentions of another unusual girl didn't complicate things further. Mine was small, pale, unusually clean with glossy hair, and often acted as an adult. Well, I wasn't sickly, so I was neither small nor pale, which should cover that department. I also didn't overdo it with cleaning before I came to Otto. I wasn't completely dirty. I did want to look presentable, but it wasn't my usual stand. Definitely no Renjam. I looked pretty normal, and all I had to do was act normal. Since I had future perspectives from side stories that showed which things people found weird about mine, I could just avoid them, just like me not knowing how to hold a pen. People who came second in something were often forgotten. Nobody remembers the people who were second successfully reached the peak of Mount Everest, and I was banking on that sentiment pretty hard. Oh, I should probably do the actual work. I want to look uninteresting, not incompetent. I was scratching into the slate tablet and doing my math, though I was a bit rusty. The last time I had seriously done math with my hand and head was in high school. Since then, it had either been with a calculator or a cell phone app calculator. The first few calculations went slow, but I gained speed as I went. Once I got used to it, it was just about repeating the steps. I finished the board as if I had just completed an easy math test. Well, it was simple multiplication. That stuff is probably ingrained in everyone who went to school. I would be lost if they wanted me to remember integrals or derivatives. That knowledge left my head on the last day of high school and never returned.
Pretty good, Mila.
Otto was looking over the board. Thank you, I beamed happily.
I wonder what mine would say to such a skillful follower.
Please don't tell anyone, especially not mine. I'd feel embarrassed. I lowered my head so my face wasn't visible. I don't want other children to laugh at me.
Don't worry,
he said. I looked up, and Otto turned an invisible key in his mouth with a smile. My emotional blackmail worked. Though I wasn't sure about that. He had discussed mine with Benno and Karina behind her back. On the other hand, I tried everything I could to not look too gossip-worthy. Also, it was one thing to discuss how mine did 70% of his work and how exceptional that was, and a completely different thing to say that he had added yet another little girl to do even more of his work. I didn't think that would be something he wanted to brag about. All I had to do was not look better than mine, which was pretty easy. Pretty much meant that I had to take it easy. That wasn't a really bad problem to have. I was already checking on mine anyways, so I could easily come to the gate whenever she wasn't there. I was confident that I could manage to avoid her and not interfere with her progress. The only possible danger could be Otto telling mine that another girl was doing math at the gate, but he totally promised not to tell. Right? My lessons with the apprentice soldiers started afterwards. At first, I was a novelty to them, and they kept their distance. But the moment they learned that I didn't know much, they immediately flipped into older brother mode. It was endearing how they were all trying to show off. They were all used to the small girl knowing everything better than them, so they were really glad that there was a newcomer who needed their advice. It was nice how they all tried to help me. As I eventually picked up speed, they all tried hard to stay ahead in areas they could. Otto even commented how it was pretty beneficial to have me around. I was pleased, but also a little unsettled. Otto still needed to offer this job to mine, otherwise she might look for alternatives. And who knew what could happen if she started coming up with completely new ideas that threw everything in a new direction. I knew that mine was constantly getting sick, especially when winter came. I could easily fill those absences since I could come even during snow or bad weather, but I probably needed to keep those to a minimum. And well, I still had to go to the forest. Otto wasn't actually paying me since I wasn't baptized, but I didn't mind since I was learning how to read and write. That alone made it worth it. Alright. Docs.
Chapter 11, Schumel Hut, second try. I wanted to try catching and properly butchering a Schumel. Or, if I was being honest, I wanted to be able to do everything the other kids could do. I didn't actually want to do the butchering. So, when some kids decided to go on a hunt, I once again tagged along. We again followed the taller boy with red hair. I should have also learned his name already. Our group was smaller this time, but that didn't really matter. I knew some of them, but there's also new faces. I especially noticed this really small girl. She looked like 4 or something and had short red hair. Personally, I wouldn't have brought someone so young on a hunt, but then again, we were hunting small bunnies, so it was probably normal. After some walking, we approached a dense thicket of bushes. I had a feeling that something was in them, and the boy who led us confirmed it with a silent signal. Every activity feels so much more intense and professional when someone gets a silent signal. It made me chuckle a little bit, silently of course. I knew the drill. We went around the bushes, waited a little, and scared everything ahead of us into running. We got the Schumels, but there are too few for a team as big as ours. Only a small group is hiding in the bushes. That was a bummer. I hoped it would not cause any arguing about splitting them, but it turned out there were many sibling couples in our areas. Older brothers and sisters just handed Schumels to their younger siblings. They would share it later, and our group split. While half of us went to the river with Schumels, those older siblings without Schumels went to try to find some more. I was sitting near the riverbank with the knife in my hand. While I was doing my mental preparation, that tiny girl was getting all the material without any problem. It made me a little self-conscious, so I just gripped the knife and held my Schumel tight. A child's scream went into my ears just as I started my first cut. My eyes widened as my heart jumped. I reflexively stabbed the Schumel and made it disintegrate. It took me 2 seconds of trauma to realize that scream didn't come from the Schumel, but from the little girl near me. I turned to her and then fluidly continued in the direction where she was looking. There was another Schumel with glowing eyes that were changing color. It had a pretty aggressive pose and it leaped towards the girl. Mila?
Yeah. Sorry, did you not hear me?
No.
Hey! Ah!
I shouted, and weirdly, it actually worked. The Schumel froze in its place. Well, more like collapsed a little. I was pumped with adrenaline, so I wasn't thinking about it too hard. Instead, I moved between the child and the Schumel. It didn't even move, so it was pretty easy to stab. I'm starting to think that I'm pretty good at stabbing small animals. That was a thought I'd ever expected to have. Well, I did it in a heroic defense against a small, defenseless bunny that nobles gave as pets to their children. It was probably pissed because it must have been the parent of the Schumels we were killing. Yeah, not much heroism. Wait, it does have poisonous talons. That makes it a little heroic. As I was pondering how to sell it to myself properly, the taller red-haired boy darted out of a nearby bush.
Ness, are you alright?
He ran to the small girl who still seemed frightened. I got startled by him a little, but he was probably her brother. They both had red hair and looked similar, but the colors here were all over the place because of Mana. That wasn't something I could rely upon, and his eyes were green while hers were violet, so there was a certain resemblance.
That human looked scary.
Human?
It had weird eyes.
Right.
The boy looked like he immediately understood. He had probably seen something like that multiple times by now.
And that's Ness again. It's Ness again.
So,
I think it didn't come across.
but that girl scared him back and stabbed him.
She pointed at me, smiled a little in response.
Wow, thanks, Mila.
The boy said enthusiastically. Crap, did I already know his name? My smile twitched for a moment.
Not a problem.
I replied with forced confidence.
Oh, right. My name's Bert. I don't think I ever told you.
Thank you. I was relieved I wasn't supposed to know yet. I was really bad at names. I didn't even remember half the kids I interacted with regularly, and he knew mine without me even telling him.
Nice to meet you.
It felt really weird saying that since we interacted before, but it was my automatic response when I heard someone's name. We talked a little as we waited for the others to return. They had no luck, so their faces looked somewhat gloomy. Once the group was whole again, we could return back. As we were walking, I had time to think. Angry Schummels wouldn't just stop frozen in place where someone shouted at them. Since I knew about my mana, I could add 2 and 2 together, and I was pretty sure I used crushing there. Although, I always associated crushing with someone having too much mana and losing control of their emotions. Not exactly something fitting me, a person as so low on mana that I was still healthy. But when I thought about it, it could also be used as a focus attack. Since my foe is basically a small pet, it shouldn't require that much mana to attack it. All I needed was to have a strong focus. Thankfully, a small child being attacked did kick in that powerful protective response most adults have. It might sound a little shameful, but I was glad that Ness was the one who had been attacked. If it was me, I was frozen and did nothing. Thanks to the fact that it was someone else, a small child in danger, it was easy to act, and it also helps me to focus my anger on the attacker. I wanted to test it, preferably with no children around.
Alright. Ally?
Chapter 12. Being bad at trekking. The next day, I wandered alone farther into the forest. If I could actually crush a small animal, I wouldn't need other people to lure it towards me. All I needed was eye contact and a strong focus. After a few hours of walking, I realized that I did, in fact, need other people since I couldn't actually find anything. I sighed a little. When I had been washed into this world, I spent weeks learning everything I could since I knew that I had very limited knowledge. But the moment I thought I could cheat with magic, I just went off on my own, even though I didn't actually know how to track animals. Well, I wasted half a day. Might as well start gathering mushrooms on my way home. It was a completely different story when I switched to doing something that I actually had some practice at from previous months. It was actually pretty easy since I went so far away. Most of the places looked untouched, with bountiful offerings of resources I needed. After that experience, I tried to find Bert for the next few days. The problem was that he was working a regular job, so he wasn't going to the forest that often. I noticed the same with Zena after her baptism. We hadn't seen each other in a while. They also had other duties as older siblings, while I was an only child, so I had significantly more time than them. Luckily, I found Bird's little sister, Ness, so I asked whether her brother taught her anything about sumo hunting. She was quite happy about me approaching her and talked cheerfully about everything she could remember. She wore a big smile as I walked beside her, and I got terribly guilty for coming to her just for info about hunting. She was obviously happy to make a new friend who had saved her from an attack. Because of my bad conscience, I ended up helping her with her gathering. I filled that basket of hers to the point she couldn't carry it for too long, so I also carried it home for her while she carried mine, which was almost empty. My next attempt at being a tracker went great. I once again wasted half a day in the wilderness, but actually found a couple of shoe in the end. It was a delightful surprise because my mood and confidence had almost hit rock bottom. When I spotted them, I was the actual one that froze. I feared that a single move would frighten them away after I spent so many hours looking for them. I had to try to breathe calmly and silently. This was my only shot. If I did manage to crush it, if my power wasn't strong enough to paralyze the crew mill, it would just scare the target away. I needed complete focus. The last time I managed this, it was because I saw a small child in danger. Maybe if I think about it, I closed my eyes and imagined a fake scenario where a little girl was threatened by a monster. At first, the girl looked like Ness, and the monster was something resembling a tiger. After a while, Ness gradually changed into how I imagined a smaller Mila before I came here. And the tiger started resembling my drunk father. Great. Now I feel like it's just a generic serial killer in the making, stopping small animals while thinking about an abusive parent. But in truth, the mental image was effective. The moment I opened my eyes, one of the shroom mills collapsed. I trot towards the shroom mills, and after a few steps, the other one started running. The movement caught my eye, and he immediately collapsed as well. I forced my eyes away from him so he could escape. It was pretty far away from the river, and it was a lot further away from the gate, so I wouldn't be able to carry them both anyway. And then I finally gripped the collapsed shroom mill. It was dazed, so I didn't have to slam it. I dragged it all the way to the river, and then I couldn't do it anyway. Every time I psyched myself up, I reflexively tensed as I was expecting a scared scream. There was no way around it. I just looked on the other side of the river and stabbed my prey. As I was holding yet another face stone in my hand, I was rethinking my attitude towards this. It was worth at least something. Obviously, the value of a face stone was much lower than meat and pelts. I didn't know its real value since I didn't know for what exactly these tiny stones could be used by the nobles. My assumption was that we were being ripped off because, well, everybody in these kinds of transactions gets ripped off. No antitrust laws in the world. Nonetheless, stabbing was fast, and the Fabies disintegrating afterwards made it pretty unreal, so it wasn't that uncomfortable. I went back to the city to sell the face stone at the shop. When I got back home, my father was uncharacteristically not drunk and in a good mood. Obviously, I defeated his drunk form out there. I smiled a little on the inside. Even so, I went to bed shortly after, out of habit.
All right. Chapter 13.
Using a bait. In the morning, I waited outside for my parents to leave and then went back in to look at into my stash. There, I stowed some Rinsham bottles, a few metal coppers, and one face stone dyed with my mana. It took me ages to stockpile. At the start, it felt like trying to blow air with your mouth into a tire, but eventually I prevailed. Mainly because I already knew it could be done. I took the stone and went right outside the city.